After a shocking twist and the death of another major character, we are back on the main battlefield, where Yuji is fighting Sukuna. Yuji has a secret plan and a secret weapon to defeat Sukuna, and he also has a new power that is already being revealed. Jujutsu Kaisen is absolutely fire right now, so let's get into it. Finally, this video will of course contain JK manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Okay, so the previous chapter left us reeling after that absolutely insane twist. At the very end, just when it looked like the meme battle between Kenjaku and Takaba finally ended with Kenjaku scoring a decisive victory, Yuta showed up out of nowhere, snuck up on Kenjaku, and literally took the villain's head off. In a matter of moments, Kenjaku went from the main villain mastermind of the entire series to a seemingly dead man. Although as he died, he declared that his will live on because they will be carried on by a successor. The two big questions we were left with at the end of that chapter were, who is this successor? And will Kendrick really die? Or will his brain parasite thingy find a way to survive even after its host dies? The latest chapter brings us back to the main battlefield and the epic battle against Final Form Sukuna. After a lengthy detour that frustrated a lot of people, we have returned to the main event, Yuji Hikuruma and others versus the King of Curses, Sukuna. We see a brief flashback to when the Jujutsu sorcerers were planning out their strategy for this incredible battle with Sukuna before the battle actually began. They were basically planning for what would happen if Gojo lost, and the plan was always for Yuta to sneak up on Kenjaku and deliver the final blow while Kenjaku was distracted by Takaba. So it seems that things actually went exactly as planned, at least for now. During the flashback, we also learned that Miwa apparently can't fight anymore because she placed a binding vow on herself back in Shibuya. In exchange for the power to attack Kenjaku, she made the vow that she would never pick up a Cortana again. Ouch. That is rough, since she still couldn't do anything to Kenjaku even after that binding vow. But hopefully Gege will find a way to make Miwa's character relevant again. I assume that he's bringing her up in this specific chapter for a reason, and that reason will become clear later. Kusakabe explains that even if Kenjaku is able to pull off his master plan of forcibly merging the people of Japan with Master Tengen, it is likely that sorcerers will be able to resist this merger at least for like a few days. But unless they can come up with a way to defeat Kenjaku and Sukuna, they will all be forcibly merged eventually, so they will have to find a way to win in the end. Kusakabe tells everyone present that only people who are actually willing to die should be taking part in this fight, and the others should only be there for support. Since Kashimo made it clear that he wants to challenge Sukuna right after Gojo, Higuruma volunteers to go after Kashimo Higuruma's curse technique and his judgment. Shikigami have the power to potentially confiscate Sukuna's cursed energy, which could be a decisive factor in ultimately defeating Sukuna. And if Higuruma can manage to get a death penalty for Sukuna, he will be able to attack with the Executioner's Sword, which would obviously be a great asset since this sword is believed to be able to kill literally anyone, even the King of Curses. A lot of things will have to go the right way for the plan to actually work, and there is no guarantee that they will succeed in convicting Sukuna of the death penalty, or even the lesser penalty of losing his curse technique, but the sorcerers believe that this is one of their best options, so it's worth a shot. It is important to note at this point that many believe that Sukuna actually possesses more than one curse technique, so it's possible that even if one of those curse techniques is confiscated, he will still be able to fight with the other. That is definitely something we have to think about. Then we get a bit of a funny moment in hindsight because Koshimo is actually upset that Higuruma assumes that he will lose, and so another strategy will be necessary. But I mean, we all know what ultimately happened with our boy Fraud Shimo, so good on Higuruma for thinking ahead. As Yuji points out, it all depends on which crime Judge Man will choose to prosecute Sukuna for, and this is not something that Higuruma can actually choose. That said, Judge Man definitely shouldn't be low on options, since Sukuna has committed many unspeakable crimes, including killing many people in Shibuya where he took control of Yuji's body. So the possibility that Sukuna will be charged with a very serious crime is there, but Hiraguna points out that it isn't guaranteed. Sukuna could be charged with murder or attempted murder, or a lesser crime like harming Yuji by taking over his body or burning buildings that are currently under construction, and so on. While all of these are crimes, there is a clear difference of severity, and the severity of the crime will affect the nature of the punishment. Furthermore, there could be some leeway for Sukuna regarding crimes that were committed as a result of his fingers, which are cursed objects. Sukuna may be indirectly responsible for some of these acts, but he may receive a lesser sentence. Higuruma explains that for a single murder, the punishment is usually 10 to 15 years in prison. For 2 murders, it's life imprisonment or a death sentence. And for unaliving more than 2 people, the culprit is basically guaranteed a death sentence. Then we go even deeper into the intricacies of Japanese criminal law. And I won't bother you with more of that here. But basically, the sorcerers can't guarantee that Sukuna will receive the harshest penalty. So the possibility that Sukuna will be charged with a very serious crime is there, but Hiraguna points out that it isn't guaranteed. Sukuna could be charged with murder or attempted murder, or a lesser crime like harming Yuji by taking over his body or burning buildings that are currently under construction, and so on. While all of these are crimes, there is a clear difference of severity, and the severity of the crime will affect the nature of the punishment. Furthermore, there could be some leeway for Sukuna regarding crimes that were committed as a result of his fingers, which are cursed objects. Sukuna may be indirectly responsible for some of these acts, but he may receive a lesser sentence. Hikiruma explains that for a single murder, the punishment is usually 10 to 15 years in prison. For 2 murders, it's life imprisonment or a death sentence. And for unaliving more than 2 people, the culprit is basically guaranteed a death sentence. Then we go even deeper into the intricacies of Japanese criminal law. And I won't bother you with more of that here. But basically, the sorcerers can't guarantee that Sukuna will receive the harshest penalty. In fact, there is about a 30% chance that he will get the death sentence and 70% chance that he will receive a lesser punishment. That's because along with murders, Sukuna has committed countless other minor crimes, like say destruction of property, and if he's charged with one of these lesser crimes, then the punishment might be negligible and the whole plan will be for nothing. There's also the question of whether the crimes Suka committed in the past, like during the Heian era, are still crimes that can be prosecuted. In modern Japan, there technically isn't a statute of limitations on murder, but at the same time, in the Heian era, laws were completely different. So how can you charge someone with a crime that wasn't legally a crime back when it was committed? Honestly, kudos to Jujutsu Kaisen. They managed to combine extremely dense legal matters with a high-stakes epic shonen showdown, and I don't think that I've seen something quite like that before. It's definitely unique and interesting. And no, I'm totally not frustrated by the fact that now I pretty much have to become a qualified Japanese lawyer to review Jujutsu Kaisen chapters. I'm totally cool with that, you guys. Thanks, Geej. Yuji believes that he has an idea about how they can make sure that Sukuna will receive the death penalty, but we don't get to see the details because we then jump right back into the main fight. However, we will receive the details later and they are very interesting. Back in the present, mates, Imiyuhai uses her crows to distract Sukuna, and that is when Yuji and Hikiduma engage Sukuna in combat. Yuji bravely faces Sukuna in hand-to-hand combat, punching and jumping and doing anything in his power to hold his own. So now there will be a retrial, with Sukuna as the main defendant. At least that is how I understand it, and of course the penalty for a crime as severe as a massacre is definitely a death sentence. A lot of focus has been placed on judgment in this chapter, and I think that Higuruma's domain could be an amazing asset against Sukuna, but I don't think that it will be enough. The main goal here is to get the Executioner's Sword, which has the ability to kill anybody, even Sukuna, and then after the sword is obtained, they want to use it to kill Sukuna. But let's be real. We all know how shonen works, and there is no way that a side character like Higuruma will be the one kill Sukuna. So I'm thinking that we will get to see the Executioner's Sword in action, but what if someone else is the one who wields it against Sukuna? What if Yuji combines his new powers with the Executioner's Sword in order to finally win back his main character status after the death of Gojo? Yuji is clearly undergoing a physical transformation, and we've known ever since. Gojo first mentioned it in like chapter 12, that Yuji's body will eventually learn to use Sukuna's innate technique. Now just imagine if Yuji had the same curse technique as Sukuna and then combined it with the Executioner Sword, a legendary object that has the power to kill anyone, and it just happens to be an object used for cutting and slashing. Literally the one weapon that is most compatible with Sukuna's innate technique. Imagine that final form Sukuna against Yugi with Sukuna's curse technique and the Executioner's Sword. That would be absolutely epic to watch, but even then, I feel that Sukuna's advantage is just too big. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe the channel to watch more videos.